Some ask me, what do you see when you look inside the mirror? I say, same thing when I look at you. I said, you have become a mere image of me. But hey, I made them images too. And then I wonder, why can't I be what I always see what's inside of me? Daydreaming all day long. And then I wonder, why can't we be what we all want to be free? What makes me weak, not strong? Come along, imagine, oh yeah, imagine, oh yeah, imagine, oh yeah, imagine, you dream for real. Like to talk about a good vibration. I talk about using imagination. Oh yeah. Some tell you life is what you make it. Now who say we won't make it? Not time. Oh yeah. And then you hear them lectures from the rich man. Tell me who is the money rich man? Some politician man. I strive to make it every day in spiritually. No, not just a night in some dream. Oh no, the verbal and emotional gifts, yes, that makes you rich. Not just the kind that are green. Come along, imagine. Oh yeah, imagine. You should imagine now. Yes, you should imagine you drink for real, yeah, yeah. A dream of peace. Let's do away with that hate and not just American dreams. Oh yeah, I need to talk about a dream of faith, a dream of hope, a dream of my good love, my job walking with us again within. Now one man's dream, another man's reality. Don't mean our life are not for real, and some think that our life are only in the dream, but not what the soul has to feel. I come along, y'all. Yes, I say I come along. Yes, I say can come along. Come along, come on. Yeah, yeah, imagine. Yeah, imagine. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, imagine. Your dreams for real.
So here we go. My mic was muted, and I have a nice echo. So we're going to take that echo out while I talk here. So now, I want to talk about all these lovely things happening in Chatham County. We have an issue with our water that needs to be talked about. We have some wonderful things happening in our schools. We have some wonderful things happening in our community. But right now, we have an issue with a statue in our town. And so we're going to talk about that. A few weeks ago, our commissioners voted to have a Confederate statue taken down, and from that, we have had many, many weekends of diatribe, of confrontation in our town, of some people who are for the statue, some people who are against the statue, and everyone is arguing, or Facebook arguing, or this past Saturday, they were actually in the streets fighting, yes, grown-ups in the streets fighting because people simply can't get along and have a conversation about this Confederate statue. So I have two guests today. Two people who live here in Chatham County who I knew that if I invited, I'd be able to have a conversation about this statue. So today, my guests are Tami Schwerin and Brenda White. How are you, ladies?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, Tami?
Very good.
All right, so Jody, we're good. We can hear everyone very nicely. Nice, thank you. We can hear everyone very nicely. We can hear everyone very nicely.
No.
Thank you. So, Brenda, tell us who you are and where you're from and how long you've been in Chatham County.
Well, my name is Brenda White, and my maiden name was Bland, and I spent my entire life, I'm 68 years old, and I've lived my entire life in Chatham County, with the little exception of when my husband was in the Navy, and we moved around some then, but this is home to me. This is where I have lived since birth, and went to high school when it was still Pittsboro High School, graduated with the class of 1969. That was our 50th reunion this year.
And when I had you on the radio show some months ago, and you said, Aaron, I think that they should keep the statue up. And I said, great, let's talk about it. So here's our time to talk about, from your perspective, in a way where we're not arguing, fussing, and fighting, but where we're going to have a conversation as to why you believe the statue should stay where it is.
We're a nonprofit and we focus on community resilience. I was born in Raleigh, so in the county next door, and grew up in integrated schools, and always kind of thought I was a poor little white girl until probably about a decade ago when I started going to the racial equity training. So I've done that a couple of times, and I highly recommend that because, again, I learned I'm really a white privileged woman. And I think, I look to my friends of color to get advice about these things and, what is most helpful. And so when we first started talking about taking the statue down, Abundance works with Rafi and with Lashana Austria. We have the Chatham Social Justice Exchange once a month. And so I said, Lashana, what do you think about this? And she's like, and other people of color said, well, it's not going to do anything with systemic racism. Who cares? And so, I kind of took a back seat to it until a few weeks ago there was a march, and I attended and started talking to people. And this one particular older black man said that he used to drive up from Moore County, and it would be dark in Pittsboro, and he would come around that courthouse, and it was really frightening to him. And he's this strapping, big black man, and we just had the best conversation, not to mention kids. So now I'm kind of completely passionate about it, and as the rebel flag started going up around the county, I felt very compelled to do something about it. And so I'm ready to take that thing down. But more importantly, I want to have these conversations. And I would like us to actually be an integrated community. So I do have some really good friends of color, but we're missing out. The white people are so white, and we're so, I would say many of us are ignorant on all the issues because we just don't have that perspective. And so I think the more we can truly integrate and have these conversations, that will make our community stronger.
So, Brenda, I'm going to ask you, and this is the beauty of live multimedia platform, is that as we tweak it, as we get going, do me a favor, reintroduce yourself, tell us who you are. Your mic was muted before, and you sounded great to where I could hear, but if you say that again, I certainly do appreciate it. I know the folks who are watching and listening would appreciate it as well.
All right, thank you. Yes, my name is Brenda Bland White. I've lived in Chatham County all my life, 68 years. I spent much of my adult career as an attorney, and I worked with North Carolina's first integrated law firm, which was primarily based out of Charlotte, Chambers, Stein, Ferguson, and Beckton. I worked with their Chapel Hill office. And my connection, if it be considered as such, to the statue is simply because it has been here all my life. It seems to be a part of my town. It's recognized. I think our courthouse is unique structurally and historically, but I think it's sort of symbolic. So when I see the statue in front of the courthouse, it doesn't occur to me that it is racist. It just occurs to me that it's a piece of art and it's part of Chatham County.
So and I think we talked about this the other day, going the direction where you live, there is a Confederate flag that was recently erected there. I'm going to say just very directly that to me the Confederate flag is a symbol of terrorism. It makes my skin crawl every time I see it. And as I said before we came on air, I find that akin to perhaps the way my Jewish friends in Baltimore, which I hope you guys are listening and watching, I find that akin to if someone was to have a Nazi flag waving in their face. That's what the Confederate flag, how it makes me feel. I cannot speak for all black people, but I do know enough black people do feel that way. Can I just get your opinion on, I know it's people's right, and I don't want to take away anyone's right, but your opinion of the Confederate flag that's erected going north of town?
I think my first reaction was surprise, a little shocked. I mean, one day it wasn't there and the next day it was. My second thought was, why?
I asked why too. I mean, I like to get to the root of things. Like, yeah, why?
Well, and I totally, as an attorney, I totally understand a property owner's right to do with his property, his or her property, what they wish, as long as it's within the confines of the law and local ordinances and so forth. But yeah, that was just my first reaction. Was just a little shock and surprise. And why? Because there's that one that's east of Pittsboro on 64, and then there's another one on 15501 south of town, right across from
Horton. That was going to be my next point. So for those of you who don't know, so with the Confederate flag, the Confederate statue that has been voted to come down, there has been a group, and I don't believe the group is from Pittsboro. I think they have some Pittsboro supporters, but there is a group who's been coming to our town erecting Confederate flags around the periphery of the town. And so on Friday, this past Friday, they erected a Confederate flag direct across the street from the middle school. Now, this just isn't any middle school, not that I think that any middle school should have this flag erected across the street from it, but this school is called George Moses Horton Middle School. George Moses Horton Middle School used to be the all-black high school in this town. As a matter of fact, my mother graduated from that school. And to me, it was a very divisive move because it's in front of a school that's named after a black man that was traditionally the black school. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say hold my seat.
You got it, boss.
Don't mind me, I'm just the tech guy. And now I'm going away.
On this, I don't know if you guys can see this, but here's an old school map of Pittsboro. Old school map of Pittsboro. And See if I can find it. If you can look right here, I'll show you guys. You guys see right there?
Mm-hmm.
What does
Yes.
it say? What does it say right there? That says the Negro School. That's where the Negro School is. They even put it like that on the mapping. The Negro School. So,
I never
these
saw
folks,
that.
say again.
I've never seen that.
Education and knowledge is power. So these folks erected the Confederate flag right across from what was, as it says here, from 1947, the Negro School. That was a very divisive move, and it's still there today. Now, I said this earlier, my little girl is terrified as a 9-year-old little girl to come to the town of Pittsburgh, and I am all for people's rights, but there's a line, I think, between people's rights and terrorizing a community. And you're an attorney. I'd like your thoughts on that, please, Brenda.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, we do have the right to, you know, we have freedom of speech. We do have the right to say, to express our opinions. And as I said a moment ago, to put whatever signage on our personal property that or cell towers or whatever on our personal property. But I do think we need to be considerate of one another. I do think we need to be cognizant of what some symbols, and if the Confederate flag is considered a symbol, you know, what that means to some people. It may not mean the same thing to me, but then I'm not a black person. I'm not a person of color. And I don't come from the same heritage. But as I said, you know, having grown up here, and I told the story a moment ago, I think she and I were talking about the time that my sister, when she was about 7 years old, asked my mother why there was a colored entrance and a white entrance, or why there was that signage at some place where we were shopping. And my mother bent down to get on her eye level, 7-year-old eye level,
Sure.
and said, "That's because some people think that we are better than they are, but we don't think that." And she made it very clear to my sister that that's what some people may think, but we don't think that.
Tami, you had a meeting yesterday, if you would disclose it, and we're talking about the Confederate flag that's going north of town. There's a billboard there that's going to be having some changes. Is that something we can share?
Yeah, we might as well. So when this flag went up, I was horrified. To me, it speaks of ignorance, of hate, of racism, and it's the first thing you see as you're coming in from the east, from Raleigh. And so our staff talked, we had a talk about it, and the first thing that people said was, well, let's get that billboard next to it, and let's put up the antidote to that flag. Because that is not representative of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is about love and peace and understanding, which is my experience in this community. And so there's, you know, I started calling the billboard companies and trying to work on this, and they've all been leased. Well, other people, of course, were concerned, and we got in touch with the woman that owns the billboard, or she's leased it for a year, and I met her for the first time yesterday. And she was not really happy that this rebel flag went up next to her real estate company billboard. It's not good for business. And so we had a great talk. I came home from that meeting to my office and sent out a message to all of the county and town officials and several of the leaders that I thought needed to be there. And, I mean, people had just a few hours notice. And is that good? Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
And within a few hours, we had 20 people over at the plant, and we started out, as a white person, I just wanted to have hearts and peace, love, and understanding. But several of the black people in the room said that's not direct enough. Like, that's just, you know, that's really soft pedaling the situation. And so we came up with a message that I believe, you know, will speak to the flag and what's going on. And we are designing it as we speak, and that billboard is going to get changed in the next few days.
So Brenda, to that point, and I remember when North Carolina was going through the whole bathroom issue, the bathroom issue a couple of years ago, and I was said, oh, well, there's a lot of revenue that was lost because of the lack of understanding of us not wanting to have same bathrooms or shared bathrooms or something like that. And one of the comments was revenue that would be lost by, I guess, the ACC tournament not coming here, or maybe All-Star game or something like that. Well, I've heard the same argument here, is that people don't really care about the statue being up or down. They care more about the business, and it's a bad look for business. How much do you think that that's in play, Brenda, as to why people want the Confederate statue down? Is it about compassion, or is it compassion, or is it business being cloaked by compassion? Which do you think that is, if you have an opinion about that?
Well, I mean, I would actually think it would have to be a combination of both, because people are going to come at it from their own perspectives and from their own goals. From a personal perspective, I can understand the businessman's kind of like what she was talking about, seeing the flag when you first come in to a town from 64 East. Seeing something like that is, could possibly be detrimental to the local businesses. I really don't know, because I don't have that connection to the businesses.
And Tami, what do you say when people say, "Hey, you know what? It's really greed, business greed, that's cloaked in compassion as to the reason why." And this is a paraphrase of what I've heard people say: outsiders coming in, they haven't been here, and they don't really care about the statue. It's more so they want to line their pockets with Chatham Park coming. And so I hear a lot of this, and I'm going to have some guests on this show that's going to have that point of view. And I can't tell them they're wrong in their point of view, because I don't really know people's hearts. But when you hear that, what do you say, Tami?
I think it's absolutely both. As an entrepreneur, I am concerned about the business aspect of it, because the business, it makes this town go through. The local economy is super important. Of course, compassion, I would say it's both for me. So when I hear the stories, I think it's really hearing the stories of people, of the scared children and the black older man, like what this really means. That really grabs me. It makes me passionate. And at the same time, we've got to, Danville, Virginia had the same thing happen, and their local economy has tanked because they've got rebel flags circling their county. And I think they must have taken a statue down. Same thing happened. And I think we can come up with a different model that works the Chatham County way and not have that happen. So I'm going to say both.
Well, guys, I think one thing that we can all agree on is that the town is a special place.
It
and
is.
Regardless of a lot of ugliness, we know that there is a lot of beauty. I mean, look outside. I'm taking this shot, and hopefully we'll swing it back around. But look what a beautiful town we have. You know what I mean? And there's been a lot of ugliness here, but we're gonna not let that take away the beauty and what we try and manifest as a decent community. And for sure, not like that video I just showed you with two people fighting in the streets. I'd much rather have people coming in and sitting down, having a conversation like this. I think sometimes we use social media as a sounding board, but it also keeps a buffer between simply sitting down and doing what we're doing right now. So I think we just probably need more of this, and agree to disagree, but also agree that life is too short to be at odds with our community. What would you say?
I think we need to start listening to each other deeply.
Absolutely.
So you guys are the flagship kickoff, and what's great is I think you both were two of my first guests on Chatham County Roundup at WCHL. You guys were two of the first guests that I had there, and I appreciate you guys being here, and I really appreciate the conversation and the very nice, calm, direct way that we're able to sit here and talk about it, and we're not fighting in the street. I still can't get over people fighting in the streets. That just makes me feel not good to see that. You know what I mean? Can we come back at some point and keep having this discussion? Then we'll talk about some other stuff too, because Brenda, you're great with the history here in Chatham County. We talked about the mill work, which is a great play, and I actually ended up meeting the director, and they were working on some other things. But you bring a lot of history, and you bring a lot of calmness, and being an attorney, there's a lot of great information, and you're always a very warm person to have here. And Tami, as well, with the Abundance Foundation and Pepper Festival, you guys do such wonderful things here, and I'm glad to have you as my very first guest here at this location at Circle City Studios here at the Alpha Center, 15501 in Pittsboro, North Carolina, on Talk with TaJ, and on this segment, focus on Chatham. I appreciate you. I know you guys have a place to go and things to do. I can sit here and talk all day because I'm going to be here for the next couple hours anyway talking, but please come back and see me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you,
Brenda
Erin.
White, Tami Schwerin. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
So, all right, y'all, here's some music. We're going to call this, by a group called The Apostles from Atlanta. This song's called Today's a Good Day. Hope you like it.
Just screw face erase all of your lying. Day's a good day to be a good way. Whether the night is so nice, so nice. Let's just screw face erase. Let's go by. Foolish minds are kind to see what's right for you, what's right for me. Foolish minds are kind to see what's right for you, what's right for me. Today's a good day to be a good way. Whether that night is so nice, so nice. Let's just screw face around. Yeah. Like the good vibe, the good vibe, the good vibe. Day's a good day to be a good way. We're feeling nice. It's so nice, so nice. Let's just screw face around. Yeah. There's good vibe, there's good vibe, good vibe. Come on. Foolish minds are trying to see what's right for you, what's right for me. I hear you speaking with tongues of hypocrisy, all your candy, jealousy.
Yes, but I can see that your video's not on.
Day's a good day, be a good way. It's so nice,
Zoom.
so nice. Let's just screw face. Yes, let's go vibe. Let's go vibe.
Okay, so you sent me another invite.
It's a good day to be a good way.
Okay, I'm ready.
Well, nice. It's so nice. Let's just screw face. Yeah, let's go vibe. Let's
I
go
don't see it,
vibe.
brother.
Let's go vibe. So nice. So nice. So nice. So nice. So nice. Say nice. So nice. Say nice. So nice. Say nice. So nice. This is a good day. Yeah, make
I don't see the new one. I don't see the new one.
So nice. So nice. And let's go face on. You gotta embrace on. So nice. So nice. This day's a good day. Yeah, you make us all good way. Feeling so mental. Feeling so nice. Let's just go face on. You try not to erase on. Such a good vibe. Such a good vibe. Such a good vibe.
see what you're talking about with that video. Look nice behind you. That's a nice background.